Diaries of a Pastor's Wife with Lady Jen.
Hey everyone, how are you? We have made it into another week, thank the Lord, and we are yet alive. So many people are suffering, but I thank God that He has given us another chance, and um, we are here through the tests, the trials, the good, the bad, the ugly. I think a lot of us are going through storms right now. And for us, we feel like they may be insurmountable, but I believe that, you know, it's all right to cry. It's all right to pray. It's all right to sometimes scream. But it's the important fact that we remember that He is sitting up on the throne. And we know that our Lord and Savior has gone through so much worse. And we need to look at, dare I say, other people's lives and kind of put ours into perspective. You know, um, People are really suffering, and just gotta thank God that we are yet here. So yes, I'm grateful to be here. I wanted to kind of try to wrap up. I think either this session or the next session, my testimony, so that we can continue on to the good meaty stuff. Um, but yeah, I feel like if I don't give my testimony, you guys don't know, um, you know, what I've been through. And when I speak on things that, you might be like, well, she ain't never been through nothing. Who is she to say anything? She's just the pastor's wife and yada, 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 et cetera, et cetera. Yeah, no, that is not the full picture. Most of my life has been, I never would have thought that I would have been married to a pastor for almost 30 years. Like, what? That was not who it's not how I saw my life going. Um, God has a plan. And, the thing is that when we make plans, God laughs because it's ultimately His plan. So, yeah. I think I kind of left off with like high school years and me getting, I believe we left off with that. But I got kicked out of my mom's because I was a hot mess. And I definitely understand, like, hey, let your dad, somebody help you out and see if you can get a little bit better. And I think it's important that, girls need time with their dads. They need that father figure. And I think it's imperative, like, especially the younger years, that they definitely have their fathers in their lives and that they have that relationship. Um, so they understand what it's like and, to navigate being um, around men and understanding the love that only a father can actually give. And um, it's a deficit for a lot of young women and girls not having their fathers in their lives. And we need to make sure that that is something that is cultivated. We have gotten away from it. It seems like there are so many young women who are single and having children, but you don't see the long game. You don't see the end zone. If we want to put some football terms in there, but um, I mean, me myself. and I'll continue with my testimony. I'll stop yapping, but I just thought, I wanted to speak on that it is important, because I feel like a lot of the decisions and choices I made is that I was looking for love in the wrong places. Um, and when my parents divorced, I didn't have a full-time dad, as far as like in the home. I'm not saying that he was like, hey, I'm no longer a dad. Monday through Friday, I'll be a dad on the weekend. That's not what I'm saying. But yeah, we need to young women need to understand that, yeah, it might be cute when you're young, having babies and getting these men locked in, and you feel like, oh, this man's gonna love me because I'm having this baby. Yeah, no, that's not how it works. But on the flip side of that, you have the child who now does not have a two-parent home. Um, and then they're in the world trying to find the deficit and to fill that void. Yeah. So anyway, yeah. So I got relocated to my dad's, and that was a interesting journey for me, um, because my dad had remarried. I have my two brothers and my stepmom, but it was hard trying to see where I fit in that picture. You know, um, I mean, that's just being honest. And I made a lot of decisions because I didn't feel like I fit in. I felt like I was an outsider. The only, yeah, I think that's the best way to describe it. Um, is that, you just don't feel like you belong. So it was me searching for, where do I fit in? Where do I belong? Where am I accepted? Um, so yes. So that journey, I was a little, no, I was wild. I'm not gonna say a little wild. I was wild. More so like I had a lot of anger issues, so I fought a lot. Um, I wanted, to have a boyfriend, and it didn't seem like that happened for a while. And it just felt like, what's wrong with me? Why is no one interested in me? And I think a lot of young people experience that, because you're going through high school and you see all these people all booed up, coupled up, and you're just like, okay, what, I have nobody. And then that leads to, I think, depression and questioning yourself and your self-esteem, that you're not pretty enough, you're not skinny enough, and it's just, the cycle continues because, of course, a lot of these young girls are feeling the same way. I I think I started to try to find myself. It was um it was difficult, and I think that I'm still not settled, as I, as old as I am now. It's almost like you still um wonder, like, okay, what do I want to be when I grow up? Like, how do I fit in? Grades wise, I could have done a lot better, but my mind was all over the place. Um, I It was interesting because the school that I attended, there were more and more diverse children that started going to the school. And there was a deficit in what we were being taught, educational wise. There was no like Black history that was being taught. The students from diverse cultures were not treated the same. So it was interesting that I actually kind of spearheaded with, I think, like two other young people, and we actually held a sit-in um, at the high school, and it was more so on how we were being treated. There wasn't a lot of diversity that was being taught, and we weren't really accepted, and we were treated differently. So yeah, we held a sit-in. We kind of, I gave our demands and what we wanted to be um, kind of changed within the school. As far as like we wanted definitely African American history to be taught. And there were some other things. It was a long time ago, so I don't remember everything. I'm pretty sure that we did make it in the news or the newspaper, one of those. But yeah, my dad was always coming up to the school because it was always something with his daughter. I did not make it easy for him. Um, if it wasn't me like fighting or just not doing what I was supposed to in class. It definitely kept him on his toes. And then, of course, my brothers kept him on his toes and always at the school. So, yeah, that was interesting. Fun times there. Um, I ended up my senior year moving in with one of my friends and lived with her, and I worked, got a boyfriend, got into some difficult situations. I ended up, um, let's say, I ended up getting pregnant. Yeah. But well, I was out of school at the time. Um, and did not want to keep the baby. That's not what I wanted for my life. Um, so I did not. And that is something that, I asked God to forgive me. I did ask God for forgiveness. And it's something that, you look back at it now. I am not going to sit up and say that I wish that I had another child. But decisions were made, and that's something that I have to live with. um I don't feel like that was a direction that I was supposed to go down that road in my life. um if I had to do it all over again, I would still be a virgin. Eh, I mean, I would have kept myself until I was married, because now a lot of stuff, it wasn't worth the suffering that you have to go through. If people in retrospect and you look back at your life and the decisions that you made and the things that you have done, I mean, I think that a lot of people would look and say, there are things that I wish that I did not do. So yeah. Yeah, and then moving and living in like one of the roughest cities. I think it was ranked up there as one of the worst for a while in New Jersey. Yeah. So just giving you guys some background. Learned a lot, was in a lot of different situations that I did not really feel comfortable in. Thank God that I made it through. Um, Ended up moving back with my mom. I was in my 20s, either 19 or 20, and came back and lived with my mom. And just trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life. I had, like, when I graduated from high school, I actually had signed up to go to the military. And I signed up for the army, but ended up at the last minute changing my mind, because I didn't feel like, I mean, honestly, first I was scared, but I also didn't feel like I was going to do well, with somebody constantly dictating to me, like, what I want, everything, when I could go to the bathroom, when I could do, so like making it through like basic training, making it through like different things. I just felt like, yo, that was not going to work out well for me. Yeah. Um, I did get a couple of scholarships, and I chose not to go to school at that time. I didn't feel like I was ready mentally to go into another, like, 4 years of school. Hindsight's 2020. I wish I would have done it and got it over with. Then I after moving back with my mom, I ended up in a relationship. It was yeah, it's a longer, relationship. And ended up getting pregnant and having my oldest daughter. And I was just like, oh, I'm just, she's gonna love me. She's gonna love me for who I am. It's gonna be unconditional love. This is what the, type of love that I just, wanted. Yeah. And then, and the relationship, towards the end, it, her dad was, sentenced to go to, prison. And so I ended up having her, and I was by myself, single mom. Thank God for, my parents being there and helping me, and supporting me. That is, they did not want that for me, as far as like being a single mom at the age of like 20. Um, that's not what they wanted, because, both of them are college graduates. They've had the hard knocks, and they are progressing through life, and it's supposed to be marriage, and then you have a child, not just, this new like wave of single young women having kids. That is not what they wanted, but they did support and they did help, and they loved my daughter, and that is that unconditional love, and I do appreciate that. Definitely appreciate that, because I definitely needed the help. Like, I was 20. I didn't know I didn't know how to raise a child. I didn't know what to do. So thank God, I had my parents, and like my stepmom and my brothers, everybody just loving up on my daughter. And to this day, that's their baby. So I was single mom. Her dad was in jail. I would go and visit in the prison to make sure that, she saw her dad and knew who he was. Um, you try to make a relationship work while, I'm out here in the real world trying to, raise a child, and, he's behind bars, but that it just it fell apart. It did not work. I still tried to make sure that it maintained some type of relationship. It was hard, but you just you pressed on. He ended up getting out, getting released, and we were not together. um, I wanted him to be a part of her life, so we tried to make that work. I At that point, um, I was going out, I was clubbing, I was going to the bars like every weekend, like getting off work. Friday hit, get the baby in the bed and I'm out. I kind of like think ran the gamut of that. Like, it's just like you get tired of doing the same thing, the same monotonous thing, seeing the same guys and the same people out. Um, and I got tired of it. I actually was really trying to. I wanted to be in a long term relationship. Wanted to be settled. I didn't want to be like an old head going to the club. Like that's not what I wanted for my life. And my friends and I, we talked about that. Like we didn't want to be old and sitting up going to the bars like every weekend. We wanted to be settled and be in relationships. Um, and I feel like that's what I wanted long term. Um, it didn't seem like the relationships were working. And I really started to get like depressed and like I'm like, why can't I find someone? you know? And it gets lonely, It becomes a very lonely road. Yeah. So I really was becoming depressed, and I had some suicidal thoughts because I was just like, yo, but then I'm like, I have my daughter. What am I can't just leave her. And it was interesting. I ended up in that abusive relationship that I had talked about. But I one of my friends that, I was hanging out with, and we would like go to bars together and everything. And I had went to go see her at work. I ended up like working like right around the corner from her. So like I would go and like visit her like on my lunch, and we would just sit and chit chat and talk. And when my lunch was over, I'd walk back to work right up the street. So it was interesting because I went to go visit her one day, and um the there was her coworker. And, I was like, is Michelle here? He's like, no, she's not, but who can I tell her, came stop by or whatever. And I was like, well, I told him, I said, please just let her know that Joy stopped by and that, I'll call her or whatever. So, I didn't think much about it. I was like, oh, yeah, okay. So I would come in a couple more times and visit, and then struck up a conversation with her coworker, just, hey, how you doing? And I would just pick with him, you know. And he started, messing with me, as far as like being smart and, coming right back at me with my little smart mouth shots that I would give. And I was like, oh, he's kind of cute, but yeah, not my type, but okay, whatever. But it progressed because he actually invited me to like one of I think they were having a concert at his church. And I'm like, yeah, why not? I'll go. I was like, I asked his coworker, like, that was my friend. I'm like, you guys want to go? So we actually went and had an awesome time. And I stopped back in at my friend's job, and I'm like, yeah, like we had a good time, blah blah. And he actually asked for my number. I'm like, okay. Um, I was in a ending that abusive relationship, trying to figure out how to get out of it. Um, so I wasn't like looking at getting into another like, relationship at that point. Um, but I think he called, and I would like talk to him on the phone. I was just like, we're cool. And, he would stop by and we'd sit on the porch and just talk. And I was just me. I'm like, we're just friends, like we're cool. Um, but the friendship started to develop. I was like, I like him. I really, he's cool. He's like, he got a head on his shoulders. He's intelligent. He can actually hold a conversation. Versus like, it seems like a lot of guys like didn't know how to put two sentences together. Or if they did, they were just more so talking about themselves, But it was like it was like having an intelligent conversation. I'm like, wow, because that was very seldom that I would experience that. So it was really good, and like to have conversations about like the future and like future goals, and having conversations about God. And that is something that I never really got to experience, having those conversations. Like sometimes when guys like get high or something like that, you would get like those conversations, like I feel so close to them and blah blah blah. But they was high out their mind, so it is what it is. But it was nice to have a conversation. It was nice to be able to talk to somebody who, wasn't like selling drugs or, doing anything crazy. Like, he worked a job, he had a car that he had, paid for, and it's not something that, the cops can come and be like, hey, I'm taking this. So it was quite different. It was refreshing. Um, and then it was like he would call, and I would not be around, because I was going through, um, trying to break off this, relationship that I was in, and to clear the slate. Um, so I was like missing in action, and um, my husband now, he would actually call and he would like talk to my mom and have like conversations more so with my mom than because I wasn't around. So they ended up having like a little like, friendship, like, hey, how you doing? So yeah, after I kind of was able to really break off, and separate myself from that abuser, um I really had to get myself together, and like he would show up at places and I'm like, no, like, we're not doing this. um and there are times I really had to look over my shoulder, and I'm not gonna lie and say like I wasn't scared, like that. I'm like, yo, is he stalking me? Like, I don't know. So yeah, I had to get myself together. And I actually I ended up reuniting, and talking to who is my husband now. And I started going to church and bringing my daughter, and I really got into church and changed, just everything, about me. And it yeah, some of my friends, they would come to church every now and then. But it was funny because they're like, Joy with a pastor, like a minister? Are you serious? Like, who would have thought that? And it was something like, that's not I'm like the last person that you would ever expect would be like with a minister. But I'm like, now I'm 30 years in being married, and it's like, that's crazy. Yeah. So that is, most of my testimony. It was interesting, starting to like go to church, um and going consistently, and not being liked by the church girls. I'm just like, yo, I can't win. Like, what is this? I thought it was supposed to be all love, peace, and hair grease. And in church you're supposed to be accepting, and I don't know. I don't I didn't look at myself like, oh, I'm a beauty queen or anything like that. I think it was more so the attention that my husband was paying me at that time. Of course, he wasn't my husband. We were just friends at that time, but I think it was the attention that he was paying me that they thought should have been paid, towards them. And I was not used to like the church world. You It was almost like, my husband, he was the pastor's son. So it's like he was set up on this pedestal, like, oh, daughters, keep yourself so you can marry the pastor's son. And, he wasn't interested in them. And so he's paying attention to me and he's interested in me. So I'm getting a lot of hate, a lot of evil stares and looks. And I'm sitting here, girls, like, y'all don't want none of this. Because I'll take you out in the parking lot and I'll whoop you. And I'll whoop Jesus right back out of you, into you, and get you straight. Um, and it's like church girls, y'all be careful of what y'all doing, because y'all might lose y'all lives when y'all messing with folk who ain't saved. Because I was not saved at that point. I'm just trying to find God and trying to, find myself. Like, people could have been really hurt. And I'm just sitting here like, y'all don't want to mess with me. Y'all don't really know me like that. Y'all used to, being in the church world. That's quite different from out here in the real world. So yeah, I had a lot of hate. It's amazing. My husband and I look back and it's like, yo, how did I have the patience and the wherewithal not to put my hands on folk? Because I was getting ready to whoop some people's arses. You hear me? And I did not cuss. I said arse. Yeah. So that was very trying for me. Um, but it did not shake my faith, because um I experienced God on a level that I had never experienced him before. And I really had a moment of, I don't even know what to call it, but God really came in and worked a miracle in my life. So before I get to that point, it was quite trying. And it was a bit of a lonely journey, because I didn't have the females that I could be like friends with, like that I knew that weren't like talking about me, and weren't like hating on me because of the attention that the pastor's son was showing me, and not them. So I had him, but I was still on this lonely journey. So it was just me and my daughter, and my my friend at that point, because everybody else was just like, I don't like her. So it's amazing that I made it and I stuck with it. And to fight through all of that when you are dealing with your own demons, dealing with other people's demons, like, yo, that's not what you need at that point in time. That's not what you need to deal with. So all you church people, be honest um with yourselves, and don't hinder somebody else's walk, because you don't know if you are going to be a hindrance to them where they actually will leave God. Like, it could have been that I was just like, you know what, this is not for me, I'm going back out in the streets. And what if I would have just like went further into hell, because I got distracted by people and couldn't finish my walk or my journey, because people got in the way, that I couldn't see God. I thank God that somehow, he gave me a steadfastness and a yearning to really want to know him and to please him. So it surpassed people, thank God. Um and I can say that, my walk and my journey with God has surpassed the people aspect, because dealing with people really can shake your faith and your foundation if you allow it. If you don't really have that true and honest walk with him. So I'm grateful to God. that he saw fit to impart that in me. And I pray that others, have been able to find that. Um, because to deal with people while you're dealing with your own demons, trying to get out of hell. Um, and it's not saying that it's the hell that somebody else caused, it's the hell that I caused. Um, but I really did love God and I wanted to really find him for myself. So yes, I am going to end it here. I thank you guys for listening and like tuning in. Um, and I'll continue. I think the next one will be my last. And that it will be my final, like with my testimony, and then we'll pick back up after that and we'll continue to discuss, different topics. And I'm excited that my husband will actually be on, and you'll be able to hear from him, my little bit of sunshine and my love and my heart. So yeah, and he'll be able to give his perspective on some of, even the beginnings and the journeys and the tough times that we had to go through. So yeah, but I thank you guys for tuning in. And stay just stay prayed up because there's a lot going on. And we don't want to get distracted. All right. Love y'all, and I'm praying for everybody. So keep your head on a swivel. The enemy is busy. All right. Thanks for joining Diaries of a Pastor's Wife.